Good, happy Saturday evening. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Saturday evening edition of the Riley King Network Investigates. Let's begin tonight's edition right now. Tonight, on this edition of the Riley King Network Investigates, If I Can't Have You. Let's get started right now. Let's begin. Paige Biglevel's parents said the mother of three was as offensive and loving person who was very much everyone's friend in a 2007 interview with John Quincy. Let's take a listen to that video right now.
Paige is very much a soccer mom.
Grand Junction, Colorado really has that small town feel where the community comes together in a crisis. And it's here that in the summer of 2007, I came to report on a story about a young 34-year-old mom named Paige Bergfeld. Junction, Colorado really has that small town feel where the community comes together in a crisis. And it's here that in the summer of 2007, I came to report on a story about a young 34-year-old mom named Paige Bergfeld. She had simply vanished.
Frank, how would you describe your daughter?
I think the word is effervescent. She's the kind of person when she comes in the room and meets you, always gives you a big smile.
She is special, devoted, very patient, very much everyone's friend and reaching out to help everyone, and just very loving.
Paige is very much a soccer mom. She had 3 kids.
Paige was the most kind of outgoing, independent, stubborn at times, just a great sister and terrific mom.
Grand Junction, Colorado.
We examine the case of Paige Bergfeld, who friends say paid her mortgage and other bills from the money she made running her own escort business. We asked Megan, who co-founded the Avery Center for Research and Services, to help us understand the safety issues women like Paige face while working in the industry. Women in the commercial sex trade. We have a mortality rate of 40 times higher than the average. Let's take a look at that video right now.
Paige talked to me about the massive mortgage that she needed to take care of. And of course, it's monthly, so it weighed on her. She couldn't find a one-time deal and solve her problem. Paige and I had conversations about her decisions carrying an element of danger. And when someone gets to a really difficult place in their life, you have to make a choice.
Women in the commercial sex trade have a mortality rate 40 times higher than the average. So if that doesn't tell you something about how dangerous it is, I don't know what will.
I flat out told her, there's danger. And I guess I just, again, put those blinders up. I just live a normal soccer mom life. What could possibly happen?
It's incredibly deadly, but I think most people genuinely think it's not going to happen to me. I'm women somehow going to be smarter, wiser, more informed. Paige's story didn't have to end the way that it did. I hope that what happened to Paige is a part of a larger conversation of who the buyers are. They create this whole industry that women like her and I end up in, and the harms that happen to most of us at the hands of these men.
Paige talked.
Police learned Paige received dozens of calls from men seeking her service around the time she disappeared. One client was Lester Jones, a convicted felon and local mechanic who was married at the time. So police wanted to question him. Let's take a listen to this video.
Sarah was a very good employee.
We check our name files and find that Mr. Jones actually works across the street at a RV repair shop and happens to be catty corner to where the car was found on fire.
One of the key things that we found is that the driver's side front seat had been pushed all the way back. We knew that the last person that drove this car had to be tall and extremely tall. And in this case, Lester Ralph Jones was 6'5".
Lester was a very good employee, very honest, hardworking. Customers liked him, got along well with him. He had a very good sense of humor, and he could very easily talk to customers and put them at ease about problems. Most everybody seemed to like him.
Well, as we checked into the background of Lester Jones, we determined that he had been married twice prior to his wife, Elaine. He had several children before Elaine through other wives.
Lisa Nance was married to Jones for 2 years back in the 90s.
I never knew if he was into using escorts or anything like that. I never knew of it. Never heard of it.
Have a seat. We contacted Mr. Jones at work on July 5th and asked him if he'd be willing to talk with us, and he was. He voluntarily came down. I'm guessing you can probably guess as to what we're investigating.
He just said he's investigating the disappearance of a young lady.
Okay, right. And we talked to him about this case and what he may or may not know.
During the interrogation, Jones admits he visited Paige's escort service a year before her disappearance.
And who did you see that time?
Well, I don't really know. That's, I think they call her Blondie, and that's all I can tell you.
During Lester Jones' trial, prosecutors played recording of a phone call between police and Jones, where he is heard saying, "You asked me where I should bury a body." Let's take a listen to that video.
I called Mr. Jones.
Throughout this month-long trial, the jury never hears from Lester Jones. He never takes the stand. But there was one day the jury did hear him speak, when prosecutors play a very cryptic recording.
Hello, Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. It's a phone call police made to Jones the day after he'd gone through an intense 5-hour interrogation.
I called Mr. Jones to let him know that we were done processing their 2 vehicles and they were available to be released to him.
This is Art Smith with the Sheriff's Office. Just calling to let you know that we have both your cars ready for you and your wife.
So I can come pick them up?
Yeah, you bet.
I don't think so.
Mr. Jones, I'm not following you.
You asked me where I would bury a body.
I'm sorry?
You asked me where I could bury a body.
When did I ask you that? Mr. Jones, are you there?
And this is out of nowhere, and jaws dropped in the courtroom. The jurors are like, what? So they didn't hear him, but they heard him, and it didn't sound good.
This is a couple of weeks after Miss Bergfeld went missing. We hadn't found her remains until 5 years later. We had no idea whether she was buried. We had no idea where she was. So that raised a lot of red flags for us.
throughout this month...
Between the first and second trials of Lester Jones, prosecutors discovered surveillance video showing Jones' whereabouts about the time of Paige's disappearance. Let's take a look at that video right now.
And between the first trial and the second trial, we had realized Lester Jones was trying on Monday to get a hold of Paige. So we thought, I wonder if he's driving around by her worksite. In evidence, we had downloaded a surveillance video of her worksite, and we pulled it up.
The prosecution team spends hours poring over the surveillance video, looking for signs of Lester Jones.
If you watch the video, you can see in one of the camera angles, Paige's vehicle is parked sort of at the entrance to one of the buildings. This is a normal office. So you would not expect there would be much traffic there at 9 o'clock in the evening on a Monday. Well, this Chevy Impala circles the parking lot 2 or 3 times, and one of the times just drives right past Paige's red Ford Focus.
There are no signs of Lester Jones's white pickup truck, but the team knows that Jones's wife is out of town. What kind of car does she own? A Chevy Impala.
We're able to see that his wife's car, the Chevy Impala, is driving around right about the time he's on the phone calling that phone number. Between the first trial and the second trial... Between the first...
And that does it for this edition of the Riley King Network Investigates. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your Saturday evening, and I'll see you back here next time for another edition of the Riley King Network Investigates. Good night and goodbye.